So in general, I think people look at, Alarm as, the prodigal child kind of finally getting his chance in the sun. You've got Fury, who obviously comes from, London Spitfire. Ivy, I think, it kind of falls in the same way with FunnyAstro here. But I think these are players that people don't necessarily have heard very, very good things, very glowing reviews, but haven't had like tangible like experience watching. And we can sit on the show and talk about how the Fusion have such a stacked roster. But from somebody who has, recently worked with FunnyAstro, where can you sell people on this main support? Because we have our small little soapbox, but you have tangible experience with him. So what is this guy about?
Yeah, so what I can say is I'll be careful not to say too much, but of all the players that we signed and all of the FunnyAstro was by far the most in demand. Of all the people we signed, he was by far the player that we had to fight people off to get him, Almost every team in the league wanted him in one way or another. Like, I think as far as Western main supports coming from contenders, I think everybody recognized this guy was the top of the pile. He's actually somebody who I've worked with across 3 teams. Maybe people don't know this, but I coached British Hurricane for a short time before I moved into Fusion, and so I worked with him there. I've done him with Team UK and now with Fusion. So I think, how sometimes in sports coaches have those players where they like try and bring them everywhere. Like, I think that Astro is my guy. Like, I think his mechanics go without saying. Like, if you've ever seen his Lucio, he does stuff that most Overwatch League Lucios can't do. Yep. But I really love, I call him like a sponge in a lot of ways, where like whatever, he's one of those players who whatever I tell him, whatever I want him to focus on, he remembers it and he makes sure that happens in scrims. And actually as a coach, that's pretty invaluable to have a player who has that open mind. He's so incredibly coachable. For his age, he's so mature actually. Like, he's only I think he's only 19 years old, but if you ever talk to him, you wouldn't believe it. Like, he's way ahead of where he should be for his age. And we just think that the potential, should he be able to, like, he needs to adjust his playstyle a little bit to like fit into like a high level Overwatch League team, because sometimes he's still trying to make plays where he doesn't need to. But once we just need to tune him back a little bit, I think we have as good a main support as any team in the Overwatch League.
Yeah, I think it's to your point of, all these teams, kind of going after him. I think there's a reason for that. And I think people, I think hopefully that'll be that kind of tangible proof that people can kind of latch onto and be excited about somebody who I don't think people are super stoked about. I think they see a lot of the big names, and obviously Chipsa kind of was the hallmark last trade or last move that kind of dominated the news cycle. But I think people are severely underrating the Fusion's backline.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think our support line, all 3 of them are very, 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 very good.
Yep. Yeah. I even think, like, if Masa wasn't already so entrenched in the structure of Rain, I could see just like from a talent point of view, you take Astro and let him start and just develop that.
Yeah, because I think Masa's also extremely good. Atlanta, we're blessed to have maybe the 2 best Western main supports. So yeah, just one of those things, isn't it?
It's also, I think that is one that Huck wouldn't be ashamed to say that he kind of dropped the ball on this one, because if people remember back, of course he had a long suspension, but I think that probably would have paid themselves in buyouts eventually.
Without a doubt. Huck dropped the ball and maybe Astro dodged a bullet. I'm not sure.
Maybe both, yeah.
Yeah, but the way people describe Astro to me is like, feels very moth-esque in the sense that, okay, we like maybe has better mechanics even, I would say.
No, I would say
is more playful, maybe. As
more
in
personable,
like, maybe. What I mean is in his playstyle, right?
Okay.
Like he goes for the
One of the things that most people think is really good about Moth is that he's never the first to die, and I think that's like such an important for an anchor position. It allows everybody else on your team to make plays. If you have that one guy who he's always doing his job and he's always in position, that's why Moth is the glue guy of Shock, right? Like, he's the one that never makes mistakes. He's always in the right place at the right time, and that makes it so much easier if you're a DPS player to go out and make plays. So we just have to find a middle ground between Astro's ability to kill everything and then his ability to do his job. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And that's what I think is so scary about this roster, to kind of progress through it. Like, it seems like almost anybody on this team could make a play. Like, you can shift your weight on who takes the lead in the ensemble to any position, even to main support. And a lot of teams can't really say that about their main supports. It's almost like I wouldn't say a detriment, but it's a position that isn't as fleshed out as maybe a flex support or a flex DPS, where you can ask them, hey, we need you to be able to engage and make plays here. Fusion can seemingly do it from any position in any meta. That's whatever you need
internally too. Yeah,
it's crazy.
This might be an ignorant question. Who's playing Baptiste?
I don't know if I can say. At the moment, we have a system where if the meta was what it was, where all three of our supports are going to be able to play, and there isn't necessarily going to be someone on the bench. But that ultimately is going to depend if the meta changes.
Sure.
Fair enough.
So let me pose it to you.
Just so
go ahead.
Usually what we see in Overwatch League, I think that will be sort of like the thing, like, we had like Tracer plays Zarya. We had that in the past where that transition felt natural. And then now, from what I'm hearing, a lot of main support just go on Baptiste, and that seems like the natural part. I've heard definitely of exceptions where it's the other way around and the flex support plays Bap because the damage potential is so high.
Sure. We had it where, like you said, the main support played Bap, but we felt like, at least when we were in Korean bootcamp, and there were certain maps where you could play Zen Baptiste everywhere, and then there's no reason you can't also play two flex supports if you have players of the quality of Boombox and Alarm, right? So we tested everything. We have a lot of options. It just all depends where. It all depends if you're in a situation where you can just always play Zen Bap, or if you're going to have to flex onto Lucio, was probably going to be a significant factor in how we go forward.
That is interesting, though, because usually you think of the main support as like the vocal centrum or center of a team. So then I guess that's also the justification why a lot of them just leave them on BAP. Like, the justification I've seen is just like, well, you just got to use cooldowns correctly.
Yeah.
The aim is nice, but not everyone is Rascal who just climbs on a flank and just like windows people down. But it's interesting that you then considered to take out the main support and you still feel confident in your communication.
Yeah. Well, I think that maybe I would argue that the concept of a main support has to do, the vast majority of shot calling is maybe it's either a Western idea or it's outdated idea, or both. We are absolutely trying to trying to build a communication system where everybody can communicate what they're trying to do in the fight, what their ult plan is for, and then have a system where you have as many people as possible all doing that, because you should always know how to use your ult best. That should always just be a fact. And if you're in a situation where other people are calling your ult for you, then it's not the most optimal. And I think that's something that, like, I'm pretty sure the shot coaches are, and I guess now the Paris coaches as well, they've kind of split off a little bit. I think that's something that they're trying to enforce too. Maybe it's a Korean thing, but that's absolutely something that we're looking at as well. Like, we can have in-game leaders, like, it doesn't have to be main support, but we want every single player on the team to be able to call what's required to call. Otherwise, you can never have optimal communication.
Yeah, it seems like a kind of an antiquated idea to just have like a coach's arm in the team, and then just let them be the sole communicators and call everything.
That's how it was when I was growing up. But I think that maybe the game it's moved on since then,
True. But I would say they are definitely mute players still in Overwatch.
Oh, of course.
That just don't talk.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, sure there is, yeah.
Do you think that kind of idea of dating the whole like single caller system, did that kind of start with GOATs, do you think?
I'd start way before GOATs. It was when we were playing like triple tank, we had that exact same system. GOATs was one of the metas where you could have one person call most of it. Because a lot of it was about the order in which you use stuff. Like, obviously ults like Shatter are really hard for you to call because your Ryan just has to see it.
Sure.
But if you're wanting to say, okay, let's use a Grav, then force the trans and Diva Bomb afterwards, just for example, then that's absolutely something that you can have one brain behind. But when you're in this meta where it's like Hanzo ult and May ult, like, you guys need to be able, there's a very, very specific timing that those ults can come down, so they have to be able to call it. There's no way anyone else can call it. You just have to see it and be able to communicate and go and hope that everybody's ready to go,
Totally. Makes sense.